Welcome also to the members of the public that have joined us this evening, either in person or watching the live stream. Together with members of the security team, and if any member of the public objects to being part of the live stream, please advise us immediately and we will ensure that you are not included in the filming. With so many of us in the room, I politely ask that we keep background noise to a minimum, including turning your mobile devices to silent. Before we start, please ensure you have inserted your cards into your microphones and have pressed the Enter Meeting prompt on the screen. I will be using the Cue to Speak function, therefore please press your microphone button if you wish to speak during the debate to place yourselves in the queue. When the green, this confirms you're in the queue. When it turns red, the mic is ready for you to speak. Right, turning to the agenda, item 1. May I please have a proposer? Oh, sorry. Wrong one.
What's up, Chair?
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, there it is. Right, that's the minutes. Yeah, item 1, sorry. May I please have a proposer for the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of November 2024? Councillor Hind?
Yes, thank you. I am switched on, thank you. Yes, I'd like to propose acceptance of the minutes, please.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Yes, Chair. I would gladly second approval of the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. I will now take the vote. Members, please do raise your hands clearly in the air so that we can see it to count.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Any against?
Any against?
I think so.
Okay.
Any abstentions?
No. Any abstentions? Right, this is carried. The minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of November are confirmed as accurate record. Item 2, my announcements. You have noticed on the list of engagements and events that the Vice Chair and I have undertaken since the last ordinary meeting on the 19th of November. I'd like to highlight one particular one, and that is I was introduced to Princess Anne at Tattersall's Christmas Carol service, and also with the choirs. There was 3 choirs from Newmarket School. It was a very enjoyable evening. Thank you for that. Item 3, announcements to include apologies for absence. I invite the Monitoring Officer to make any announcements and inform of the apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies for absence from Councillors John Augustine, Mick Bradshaw, Andy Drummond, Paul Furman, Ian Holder, Jan Jarvis, Laura Jane Miller-Jones, Sue Perry, Mike Chester, Jim Thorndike, Michael Anderson and Luke Halpin.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. I shall move on to item 4. Declarations of interest. I would like to remind members of their responsibility to declare any interest no later than when the agenda item is reached. Are there any interests that wish to be declared now? No? Okay. Item 5. It's public participation. A total of allocation of 30 minutes is reserved for public participation. We have one person registered to speak, Vivian Gainsborough-Foote, Chair of the Churchgate Area Association in Bury St Edmunds. Welcome. Thank you. Can you press your button, ready to speak? It's in front of you. It goes red. There we go.
Red, yes.
Okay, you can sit if you like. You can.
I prefer to stand. Do you mind?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, whatever you prefer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, councillors, Thank you for allowing me to address this meeting. I am Vivian Gainsborough-Foote, Chairman of the Churchgate Area Association, which is a residents and business association for the historic grid in Bury St Edmunds. You may not know that there are 630 properties in the grid, and we have nearly 400 members. Therefore, it is a very active association, and we care deeply for our surroundings and our area. I do not want to fall out with my dear friend, Councillor Wakeham, but I'm here to ascertain if we can find a way through our impasse, bees or weedy pavements. I'm only talking about pavements, walls and hard surfaces. I have no comments to make about verges or green spaces, which is a different subject altogether. Peter, the town's lengthsman, carries out an amazing job in all weathers, but he cannot possibly cover all the town all the time. Our town is precious to us. Weedy pavements look awful, but buddleias growing out of the abbey walls are a different matter. Buddleia, with its deep and long roots, causes severe damage to our heritage buildings, be they walls or houses. Look at the state of the outside wall of the Farmers' Club in Pump Lane, the jungle growing outside the former Northgate Hotel, or the great churchyard precinct wall. To be fair, since writing this, most of the jungle, but not all, has been cleared outside the former hotel. But I'm most concerned with the weeds growing along the pavements in the grid, as they soon get out of hand and look unsightly. I know that using glyphosate when it's windy can lead to spray drift and is heavily reliant on weather conditions being suitable during and after application to ensure good efficacy. And most importantly, we do not wish to harm our bees, but I'm sure Councillor Wakeham will speak most eloquently on that subject. Both acetic acid and pelargonic acid were trialled in 2022 by West Suffolk Council's landscape team as potential alternatives to using glyphosate. Neither were as effective as glyphosate in the trials, and both were more expensive. Managers in the Green Space and Heritage team have attended demonstrations of the hot foam system of weed control and concluded it was not a practical proposition for the reasons that are listed at 3.2. It states in 4.2 that the cross-party advisory group of members which supported the portfolio holder for leisure with his review of grounds maintenance across the district in 2023 have met on several occasions. At these meetings, there has been growing support for a controlled reintroduction of herbicides to address the increasing problem of weed growth in the area. The Executive Committee recommends a return to the controlled use of appropriate chemical in strictly controlled areas. I hope this meeting will agree with this change in policy. Thank you. I rest my case.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Councillor Waterman, would you like to respond?
Many thanks, Chair. Many thanks, Vivian. Vivian, for those who don't know her, is one of the wonderful community champions we have in West Suffolk. And thanks, Vivian, very much for coming and giving us your erudite and well-informed contribution to the debate, which I'm sure you'll follow closely when we get to that item on the agenda. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. This concludes the item. Thank you for attending. You're welcome to remain in the public gallery to observe the rest of the proceedings if you wish. Thank you very much. Item 6, Leader's Statement. Members may ask the Leader questions on the content of the Leader's Statement or on any council matter. 5 minutes is allowed for each question to be asked and answered. The Leader may invite responses from the portfolio holders. There is a maximum time allocated of 30 minutes for this item. I invite Councillor Waterman, the Leader of the Council, to introduce his statement.
Good evening, Council, and thank you, Chair. You may have noticed, but we're coming up to Christmas and the time for giving presents. So our new government have excelled themselves this year with 3 big gifts, each wrapped up with a pretty bow. This year it isn't expensive jewellery or even a puppy that we're getting, but we have been gifted, firstly, a new local government funding settlement, secondly, new house building targets, and last, but by no means least, a white paper on devolution and local government reorganisation. As we unwrap the details of all 3, I'm pleased that our council is in a strong position to seize the opportunities and challenges these gifts offer. Let's start with devolution. As you know, yesterday the English devolution white paper was published. It's well over 100 pages long, and we now need to go through the detail contained within it. However, the announcement of the government's continued commitment to devolution is broadly welcome. Along with devolution, the white paper spells out the government's plans for local government reorganisation. In relation to this, I will continue to work with our neighbouring councils to seek what is best for our local communities. One size does not fit all, and the 2-tier council system we have currently has brought benefits for local communities and businesses. Reorganisation needs to be an opportunity to look beyond geographic and organisational boundaries and not just at the council services as they are now. Instead, an holistic approach to how public services can be better delivered locally in terms of outcomes and value is needed. As I say, we will now look at the detail contained in the document, and we'll continue to engage with yourselves and with other partners and talk, of course, with our neighbouring councils. Whatever the outcome, the main aim is to ensure that the people of West Suffolk remain close to and at the heart of decision making, and that we defend the principle of democratically accountable local councillors. At the end of the day, we must defend the local in local government. Moving on to unwrap our second present, members will have seen that after extensive consultation, the government has published the revised National Planning Policy Framework, which raises our annual house building target from 800 to around 1,100 homes. This aligns with the Council's housing, homelessness reduction and rough sleeping strategy, which Councillor O'Driscoll guided through adoption at our last meeting. This number, 1,100 homes, is a challenge, but a necessary one. The Council has over 2,600 households on its affordable housing register and more than 1,000 in urgent need, and has seen a rise in homelessness due to high rents and insufficient affordable housing. Providing affordable homes is one of the greatest challenges we face, as is finding the right balance as to where development should go. We also have issues such as in Brandon with the constraints there on development. As you know, we're establishing a Brandon Commission to find a way to work through these problems and unlock the potential of the town. I'm pleased to say that the process for appointing a chair of the Commission is proceeding apace. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all councillors and staff, both past and present, for the work they've done on the current local plan, which has been heard over the last few weeks by an independent inspector. We've had very positive feedback indeed from the inspector. One of the policies in that plan is the 40% affordable homes on big developments, which the inspector has endorsed. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Thorndike for the many hundreds of hours he and the planning team have put in to make this all happen. There's still more to do, but I'm confident we will see a good result early next summer. As to the third present, the government funding settlement, we await the detailed figures which will be received on Thursday this week, but we can be reasonably confident, given the announcement last week of the methods and principles behind the calculations, that West Suffolk Council will be able to set a sound and achievable budget. Once again, I'd like to thank my Cabinet colleague, Councillor Hind, for leading the enormous amount of work that's already gone into planning for next year's budget. Moving away from presents, but thinking about Barley Homes. Barley Homes Limited, as you know, is our council's housing company and is part of the way we are delivering more homes. The company has unveiled its latest business plan to deliver a pipeline of new homes while meeting the challenges all developers currently face. This plan includes the development of new housing sites starting next year, contributing to the council's goal of providing affordable and decent homes. The company has already delivered 63 homes and generated £2.1 million in income, which supports, of course, essential services. The new plan will help address local housing needs and support the council's housing, homelessness reduction and rough sleeping strategy. In addition, Councillor O'Driscoll has asked the company to explore other ways it can help to deliver the new strategy alongside growing its pipeline. Moving on to those in need, tonight I welcome the recommendation from Cabinet that we continue for a third year 100% council tax discount for low-income families, including, sadly, some of those who work. This follows support from our consultation and aims to assist around 4,700 residents facing economic hardship. By extending this relief for another year, we hope to prevent crises such as homelessness and reduce the need for exceptional hardship payments. This initiative represents a significant investment in our community's well-being during these challenging times. Moving on now to the work the Overview and Scrutiny Committee has been doing looking at rural bus services. May I take this opportunity to extend my thanks to Councillor Broughton and her committee for holding overview and scrutiny last night in Stanton to look at the issue of rural bus services. This inclusive approach to engagement ensures that our community's voices are heard and considered, especially around vital issues such as rural public transport, which is, of course, a lifeline for many, but something we, as a district council, have little control over. This does continue West Suffolk Council's tradition of championing our communities and looking for solutions, even when the problem is not our responsibility. I'm sure Cabinet will read your report, Sarah, with interest, which I know will also go to partners who have more sway over bus and public transport provision. Speaking of something else that we have a little bit more control over, which is weeds. Tonight, we will decide on whether or not to reinstate controlled weed treatment in limited areas to reduce unwanted growth and prevent structural deterioration. I won't dwell on this here because we'll speak on it later. But I am clear that any reinstatement will be tightly controlled and used in a very limited way. In doing this, we're listening to feedback from the public and also looking at the evidence. This proposal aims to balance community needs and environmental protection by including the continued use of other, more successful methods of reduced cuts and other ways of managing areas to enhance local wildlife and diversity. Sorry, I stumbled over that. I think I got misled by the word cuts, got into a little political backwater. But obviously I'm talking about cutting the tops off the weeds. I know from talking to our own grounds maintenance staff that they welcome this move enormously and are very alive as well to the need for careful and responsible use of insecticides. As one put it to me, we don't want to carpet bomb West Suffolk. We just want to be able to do a professional and good job. Moving from weeds to the future, perhaps, and looking at the way we're using technology, I'm very pleased to see that West Suffolk Council is embracing technology to help support pool safety and further encourage people to swim, stay fit, and learn a life skill at the Milden Hall Hub. Milden Hall Hub has implemented AI-assisted lifeguard technology. If you don't know what that is, don't ask me, ask somebody who might know. But I'm told it enhances swimmer safety and operational efficiency. This initiative is part of a broader effort to integrate advanced technology into public facilities. The Council is committed to leveraging innovative solutions to enhance those community services. Moving on, we've recently announced a new £300,000 funding initiative for local businesses utilising the Rural England Prosperity Fund and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. This funding aims to support business growth and development in the region. Eligible businesses can apply for grants to help drive economic prosperity. The initiative reflects the Council's commitment to fostering a thriving local economy. This funding opportunity, is expected to stimulate business innovation and expansion, and the Council encourages businesses to take advantage of this valuable resource. Moving from the future back perhaps into the past, and I'll say a few words about the Suffolk Regiment archives, which are now available here at West Suffolk House. And I was pleased to see for myself the historical records of the Suffolk Regiment, which cover over 270 years of service, which are now accessible here on the ground floor at West Suffolk House. This initiative preserves and showcases the regiment's rich history. The archives provide valuable insights into the regiment's contributions and legacy. West Suffolk has strong ties with the regiment, and I would urge anyone to visit the museum, which is in fact just around the corner from West Suffolk House. There was widespread dismay at the removal of West Suffolk's historic archives from their Raingate Street home, but at least this part remains safe here where it belongs. Moving to community sports, I want to say something about the £34,000 fund for community sports. Helping people enjoy sport, be physically active and stay fit is part of the work we do under Thriving Communities, which is why I'm pleased to say we've launched a £34,000 fund to boost grassroots sports activities across the region. Local sports clubs can apply for grants to increase participation and promote physical activity. This initiative aims to support community health and wellbeing through sports, and I'd like to thank particularly Councillors Shipp and Higgins, who've been organising the use of this fund. Possibly a more light-hearted item, but it's a call for Christmas bin-fluencers. That's be-influencers. West Suffolk Council is seeking Christmas bin influencers to help share information about holiday bin collection changes. I know myself, my elderly next-door neighbour says to me, "Clifford, what bins are there this week?" And I say, "I don't know, Martin. Look on the website, but I will try over Christmas to make sure I'm on top of what the changes are." So this yearly initiative aims to ensure residents are aware of schedule adjustments and don't miss the collections. Thank you to all those who will be helping their friends, family and neighbours, like I will try and do myself, get their bins out on the right day, as well as those who recycle their Christmas rubbish. Another Christmassy themed item is the massive success of the various Christmas markets that have been held around the district this year. I was at the Sunday market in Bury this weekend, just gone, and it's fair to say the town was rammed with visitors. And judging by the number of shopping bags, they were enjoying spending their cash in the town centre, and with a lovely array of market stalls. I have to admit a personal interest in this because I had to go back at lunchtime to collect my wife, who was playing the saxophone as part of the Bury Community Band's performance. And it was really difficult to park. The town was literally full. Equally, the Christmas market in Mildenhall was reported as a great success, and some of you may have seen the lovely video Councillor Neil posted to show how lively and well attended it was. I'd like to thank our growth team, led by Councillor Wijanayaka, for all the work that's gone into the continued growth of our markets this year, and of course to our partners in the various towns, the town councils, and the other local community organisations that have put on such wonderful Christmas events. On the subject of helping others, I wanted to share with you a story of something that happened this month at Bury Leisure Centre. A member of the public was taken ill and staff performed CPR, used a defibrillator, as well as supporting the emergency services. I'm pleased to say the person involved made it to hospital, where the last we heard was that they were recovering. Well done to all concerned, and our best wishes go to the person who was taken ill and their family. Finally, I had the privilege last week to pass on your thanks as councillors and your appreciation to our staff at the Staff's Christmas Awards ceremony, where we celebrated the outstanding work our staff do. I also met many staff at our operational centres in Mildenhall and Bury St Edmunds. Many will be working over the festive period, delivering services for our communities and making sure those in need have help. So I do want to finish by just wishing you all a very sincere Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you. We've got 5 people that want to ask questions to the leader. Oh, wow. 2, 4, 6, 8 now. Right. Can you try and keep your questions very short because of the time? Right, Councillor Marks first, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Councillor Waterman has just enthusiastically commented on the importance of keeping localism at the heart of decision making and of defending the local in local government. This kind of flies in the face of the fact that we've limited the opportunity for people to come to full council to raise their concerns, and they can only now come and raise an issue that's on the agenda. I find this quite concerning, and it flies in the face of why we were elected. I would ask, please, that this council overturns that decision and does allow. We have so few people who come to full council to raise their concerns, and we won't necessarily know of those concerns or those issues within our environments unless they have the ability to do this. So I would ask, please, that we revisit that opportunity and allow members of the public to come to our full council meetings and raise issues. They can, of course, put those to Democratic Services first, and if they don't meet with our council's objective and they belong to, say, county council, that can be articulated to them in advance. But I would ask, please, that we reconsider that decision. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Margaret. As you'll recall, we had some very unfortunate incidents where members of, there were more than one, please don't interrupt, where we had some very unfortunate incidents where members of the public gate crashed, basically, our important decision-making work, which resulted in some of them having to be banned and also has resulted in us having to employ security staff on a regular basis, something which I regret that we have to do. But as we know, other councils have been subject to these mindless interruptions. And it's a sad reflection, in a way, on modern society that we have to put up with that. I mean, we do welcome members to come to meetings, and our lovely guest this evening, Vivian, is a good example of that. And I would say to you, Councillor Marks, that if you're not hearing from your constituents through emails or other channels what the concerns that they have are, then, well, perhaps you need to make sure they are contacting you. Sorry, I got into a bit of a loop there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waldron, next.
Sorry, am I not allowed just...
No, we don't have time. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, even from now. You know, we've only got 30 minutes altogether. Yeah, okay. Well, okay, you have asked that question and he's gave you an answer. Okay, thank you. Councillor Pugh. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Waldron.
So, Councillor Waldron, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just would like to ask the leader if the housing people have made any provisions for the large number of people that are going to be homeless in West Row and Beck Row in advance of the no fault evictions, because I already have 5 families that are on 2 months' notice because they don't want DSS people in the houses anymore. So what are we going to do with those people? And there's going to be a lot more. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Waldron. That is a very pertinent question. And at this time of year, the last thing we want is for people to be evicted. And it does highlight something I was mentioning earlier about the chronic shortage of affordable and indeed social rent homes in the districts, indeed across the whole country. I don't have a specific answer for your question, but I'll pass it on to Councillor O'Driscoll, who I'm sure will give you a more detailed written answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pugh.
Thank you. Councillor Waterman, you mentioned that the government has now increased the number of homes that we have to build from the 800 odd now to 1100 down the line. As someone who's sat on the local plan for several years now, can I just get you to confirm that that new target actually won't apply in West Suffolk until 2040? Because we've just got the current plan being examined, which will come into place next year if it's approved, and therefore we won't actually be building any more of these houses until after that one has run out.
So that's a very
Councillor
good,
Walton.
sorry, I jumped the gun. That's a very good question, Sarah. It will be a challenge to build them. Certainly they will need to be built under the current local plan. My understanding is that how we'll do that is to accelerate the rollouts. And then obviously, once the impending local plan is approved, we'll then start work immediately on the new local plan, which will take into account the increased requirement for house building. But I am assured that within the developing local plan, we do have the ability to build that number of houses. So thank you.
Councillor, I've still got 2, 4, 6, 7 to go. We haven't got that long left. So, and Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. This year has been a strange year for me. As it comes to an end, one of my enduring memories is that of a knife angel in Haverhill. I was pleased that Suffolk County Council recently, the Chamber came together in support of a project regarding knife crime. Harley Barfield would have been 18 years old in the period just after Christmas, and Christmas is a very, very difficult time for families. My thoughts go out to Harley Barfield and his father Darryl, who it's been a tremendously difficult 2 years for the family, and indeed for the town. It's had a profound effect on everybody. Today, my thoughts go to Sarah Sharif, whose parents were convicted for her murder. Christmas is a difficult time, and it should be a happy time, but it's not happy for everyone, unfortunately. 1 in 4 women experience violence. Worldwide, it's thought to be 1 in 3. As a councillor, as a father, as a male, I feel kind of duty-bound to say that we should all have zero tolerance for violence against women and girls. I would like to invite the leader to see whether you can agree with that statement and come together and as councillors do whatever we can do to help worthy charities such as Women Aid and Refuge. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Waterman.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Joe. That is a very pertinent question, and I do fully endorse the sentiments you've expressed. As a father of daughters and a grandfather of granddaughters, and all of us have arrived on this planet through the agency of a woman. So we all have a vested interest in the health of women. I was happy to be invited to go to the cake cutting ceremony of what used to be the West Suffolk Women's Aid. They were celebrating their 50th anniversary. They were founded all those years ago by Sheila Wormleighton, who many people will remember very well as an incredibly powerful and influential woman in the town. I was very pleased to be invited, as I say, to the 50th anniversary. And in fact, Women's Aid now has renamed itself Restore. And that's because they now recognise that it's not just women who suffer domestic violence, it's also men as well. Yes, I do fully endorse your comments, Joe. And thank you very much for bringing that issue up.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brown.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I can now.
Devolution. A little bit of trepidation, well, quite a lot of trepidation around the process going forward. to me, it seems like it's been done in huge haste. A lot of the stuff's got to be in January. Christmas, New Year in the way. There does not seem to be a lot of consultation with the residents at all to see how they think about it. Bigger is not always best. There can be some efficiencies, but local democracy isn't always about money. We're going back to the stage, well, potentially we could be going back to the stage where, people have less say locally than what they did at the moment. So, I mean, we've really got to be careful. Can you guarantee our residents that going forward that they will not have any democratic deficit to what we have now? It's bad enough as it is. We've got, councillors from 40 miles away deciding on each other's planning applications. This could become a lot worse. And, at the moment, we've got councillors that can hold down a job and appear at district council. And in the future, when you've got a much larger council, we're going to have professional councillors. There's a whole host of stuff that we need to think about, and I don't think we're getting the time to actually, think things over. To start getting answers and things ready for the middle of January when you've got Christmas, etc. It just seems all to be in haste. Thank you.
Councillor Waterman.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Brown, for that question, which again is incredibly pertinent. If I seem a bit weary today, it's because I seem to have spent the last 36 hours thinking, talking, debating, sometimes arguing with people about devolution and local government reorganisation. And it's clear this is going to be the defining issue for local democracy, certainly for this government and possibly for the whole first part of this century. I have been talking to the leaders of the other district and borough councils in Suffolk and in Norfolk, and we are all determined that we will keep local democracy as local as we can. Obviously, until the white paper was published yesterday morning, in fact, it was yesterday afternoon at 2, we were a little bit unsure, despite various rumours and whispers and leaks about exactly what the devolution white paper would contain. Now we know, we can actively talk to our residents, our communities and each other about our hopes and fears. Tony, you asked me to give you a guarantee. As you know, there are no guarantees. But I can guarantee you this, that I, working with all the other councillors, all the other councils in Suffolk and Norfolk, will make sure that we get the very best deal we can that keeps democracy and local accountability alive. And I'm sorry if that's not as cast iron a guarantee as you'd like, but it's the best I can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've only got 4 minutes left, I'm afraid, so no more pressing the buttons, please, to speak. I've still got 4 to go. Councillor Glossop.
I don't touch that, do I? Sorry. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would like to bring up the issue of growth, please. This has come about because I read about Mid Suffolk and their 18 million Skills Innovation Centre, and they are doing a lot at the moment, and I just feel I can't see where our growth is. This present administration inherited the Bury Business Park, and we had a manufacturing sector startup units there, which have not gone ahead for many reasons at the moment. You inherited the Mildenhall Hub, the Haverhill Epicentre. We've done the work on the post office, Haverhill Provincial House, which you now have got as an adult leisure centre, but that building had already been bought before you took administration. So I'm a little worried that I can't see where this council, which was extremely forward-thinking and really leading the patch, as I saw it, going forward with large projects. And this worries me. And I know you've done a lot of work on homelessness and homes and all that kind of thing, which is very good. but we do have to have growth to bring jobs. And I can't see that. So if you can let me know what you have got that we don't know, would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Councillor Waterman.
Yeah, thanks very much, Susan, for that question. As you know, we are stalled at the moment on the AME units, the Advanced Manufacturing and Engineering units, waiting on a decision from Suffolk County Council, effectively, who are now the purse holders for grants for growth. And that's because of the change from the old LEP, local enterprise partnerships, which have now been changed for local business boards. And those business boards very much come under the sovereignty of the county council. So I'm very hopeful that we will get the money agreed for that. It's certainly advanced manufacturing and engineering fits very well with the boards, the business boards, plans for growth in Suffolk. We have been working with the business board. We were a major contributor in their consultation on the plan. That plan, I believe, has been approved or will be approved by the county council. And we look forward to carrying on the good work that I acknowledge was done by the previous administration. So, thank you for your question. And perhaps I'll ask Councillor Wijan-Ayaka to give you a written response in more detail.
That'd be good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rout.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just start by wishing the leader a very Merry Christmas and everybody on the other side of the chamber. I know we're all here for the right reasons and the betterment of the town, and sometimes it's easy to forget that, and I do remind myself of that too. It's in that vein that I ask about trade in the town centre, particularly Bury St Edmunds, and he was quoted in the article in the Bury Free Press on Friday and quite rightly said that the West Suffolk District Council does not just represent Bury St Edmunds, and I recognise that, but I think we also need to recognise that the businesses in all of our town centres employ people who might not live in that town, are owned by people who might not live in that town, and West Suffolk is an ecosystem, and people might shop in Bury St Edmunds, watch the races in Newmarket, go for a walk in Brandon Country Park. So I don't think it's as simple as saying it's not just Bury St Edmunds. He anecdotally said that the town feels busy, and I've had people say anecdotally it feels quiet. Like others, I'm in 2 or 3 times a week shopping. On Saturday, I got into Bury St Edmunds in the quickest I ever have done during the Christmas trading season, from the A14 to parked in Ram Meadow within 7 minutes. And that might be a credit to the management of his car parks, but it spoke to me, I think, of reduced footfall. So my questions really are twofold. Rather than talking in anecdotes, would he commit in his next leader's statement to giving us an update on footfall figures and car parking figures, comparing 2024 to, I would say, 2018, 2019, pre-COVID, to see how the town really is performing? And also to, if the support can be demonstrated, looking at reintroducing some form of Christmas fair. I know there were flaws with the previous one, particularly for those that lived in the town centre around traffic and parking, but at least reinvigorating our Christmas offer in the town. I know you've put on some small scale offerings, but looking at what we can do at scale to draw people to Bury at Christmas.
Councillor Waterman.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rout. Well, as it happens, I've been given some figures comparing the number of parking transactions from the 1st of January to the 30th of November for 2023 and 2024. And so far, we've seen in Newmarket a 0.5% growth. That's over 650,000 transactions. In Bury, we've seen a 13% growth, which equates to over 1.5 million transactions. And in Haverhill, they've had the highest rate of growth, which is 14%, which is over 300,000 transactions. And if you look at just the month of November in 23 and 24, i.e. the run up to Christmas, in Bury, there were 20,000 more parking events this year than last year. In Newmarket, there were 500 more, and in Haverhill, there were 4,500 more parking events. So I think that is fairly good evidence that we are seeing an increase in people coming into the towns to do their shopping or whatever else they're coming into town for. In terms of, I mean, I don't want to go over the arguments about the Christmas fair. It was cancelled for very good reason by the previous administration. I remember the last one I attended, it was actually quite unpleasant because of counter-terrorism measures. There were armed police on the streets, and I don't feel comfortable seeing armed police on the streets of our towns. Certainly, I know that the town council in Bury is working very hard with the bid and with the Arc shopping centre, and I know similar initiatives are happening in other towns across West Suffolk. So I think perhaps the days of those grandiose, perhaps rather controversial events are over, but we will have lots more successful events going forward. And I mean, one of the ones I remember so well from last year was the Mayor of Bury St Edmunds ice skating with a penguin, which is seared on my memory forever. So thanks very much for the question.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I'd also like to talk to the devolution, and I'd like to thank the leader actually for seeking more ambition when he rejected the Suffolk County deal. I think that was very astute, and this was a key catalyst for the proposed unitary authority in Suffolk. And I'm a great fan of unitary authorities. They save money, are more efficient, and make much more sense to the general public. However, I did learn when I used to have to work with Peterborough Unitary that a unitary needs to have sufficient critical mass. It needs to be big enough, and they used to regularly come and ask for help from Cambridgeshire when they were struggling. And we need to think about that. But I do understand a county-wide unitary will work. Anything smaller probably won't. Now, given the deft leadership the leader must have shown in consulting with both his own group and the independents when he rejected the county deal, it is of credit to him that after so long in opposition, he has contributed to this fantastic opportunity, and I thank him for that, even though, of course, it will mean a great majority of councillors in this chamber will no longer be councillors. But you've got my full support for a county-wide unitary, and I thank you, and I ask that you don't get distracted by trying to split the county. Thank you.
Councillor Waterman.
An interesting and provocative question from Councillor Clark as ever. Thanks, Nick. Nice to see you back. I'm amused by the fact that I rejected the Suffolk County deal. Just for clarity, I have no particular sway with the government. They don't do what I say. I wish they did. It would be great, but they don't. But I'm very happy to take the credit for that if you're going to give it to me. In terms of numbers, what the white paper says is that the floor, the baseline for unitaries should be around about 500,000 population. And in Suffolk at the moment, we have about 850, I think, and I think that's projected to grow in the next 20 years to about 890. So clearly, divide that by 2 and you don't get up to 500. However, what the government have made very clear is that the new unitary authorities must have a kind of unity, a kind of coherence in relation to the places that they're based around. And I think most people would agree that at the moment, how do I put this politely, when there are problems, there are often problems not coming from Bury St Edmunds, but perhaps coming from Ipswich. So I'm very clear, and most of the people I've spoken to are very clear, that the thought of a single unitary authority replacing all 5 of the current district and borough councils in Suffolk is a prospect that they dread. And I'll perhaps just leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Councillor Major.
Thank you very much indeed. I was very much hoping that the leader, Councillor Waterman, would be able to give a little bit of Christmas hope and cheer to all the residents of Moreton Hall. I think we can safely say that there might just be a glimmer of hope for them in trying to get something done with the issue of increased lorry traffic going through Morton Hall. And it does seem as if there could be a glimmer of hope in unitary councils. Obviously, the whole idea of splitting planning from highways has not worked. And as we well know, the amount of money that we have spent in this council to try to accommodate and agreed with the residents of Morton Hall and similar at County has so far led to very little. So I very much hope that the leader of the council will urge and push forward the devolution agreement, because that is exactly, and it does seem the only way that the residents of Morton Hall are going to get a result. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walsman.
I think that was a statement rather than a question, so I'll just agree with it. Thanks very much, Birgitta.
Well done. Thank you. I shall now move on to item 7. Items 7 to 11 on your agenda contain the referrals from Cabinet, and we shall consider each in turn. The referrals at item 8 to 11 were compiled before the decisions were taken by Cabinet and were based on recommendations contained within each of the reports. I can confirm that no amendments were made by the Cabinet to the recommendations. Item 7, West Suffolk Council Statement of Principles for Gambling 2024 to 2027. I call upon Councillor Kelly to introduce the item and move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. This is a referral from Cabinet on the 5th of November relating to West Suffolk Council's Statement of Principles for Gambling 2024 to 2027, which is quite a description. It's the Statement of Principles outlines how we as the licensing authority meet our responsibilities under the 2005 Gambling Act. The principles underscore the importance of responsible gambling and have to balance with the Act's primary objectives, which are 1, preventing gambling from being a source of crime or disorder, being associated with crime or disorder, or being used to support crime. Secondly, to ensure that gambling is conducted in a fair and open manner, and possibly the most important of the lot, protecting children and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by gambling. The Statement of Principles provides a clear vision for West Suffolk, guiding our practices concerning gambling regulation. It doesn't and cannot impose new requirements beyond those in the Act. And I think it worth emphasising it only covers premises-based gambling and not online gambling. So I propose that the revised West Suffolk Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles for Gambling, as contained in Appendix A, be agreed, and that the local area profile contained in Appendix B to the report, number CAB WS 24060, is agreed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Martin. Okay. Who wishes to speak on this item? Councillor Hind.
I don't actually. I pressed the button to second the motion, and
Okay.
I think we both pressed it together, and I'm not quite sure how you switch it off again. So
Right. Okay.
we were told not to keep pressing it last time.
I just noticed Councillor Martin put his hand up, so that's why I went to Councillor Martin. Thank you.
No speakers.
Okay. As no other members have indicated a wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Kelly to close the debate. Okay, thank you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please.
Any against?
Is there any against? Is there any abstentions? No. Right, that is carried. Thank you. Item 8. Treasury Management Report, September 24. I call upon Councillor Hine to introduce this item and move the motion. Councillor Hine.
I'm a bit frightened of this, Michelle. Item 8, Treasury Management. Prior to Cabinet on the 10th of December, the report had been to the Financial Resilience Subcommittee on the 18th of November and Performance and Audit Scrutiny Committee on the 28th of November, and it shows the investments and borrowing held as at the 30th of September this year. At this point, the Council held 46.5 million of investments and borrowing of 9.4. Interest receivable in the first quarter, driving a budget surplus of £624,010 due to higher than budgeted interest rates and high levels of cash invested. This surplus is being held in the Capital Projects Financing Reserve in order to mitigate the risk of future borrowing in the current interest rate environment. Our liability benchmark and cash flow forecast show that we will not need to borrow externally within the short to medium term this financial year. And in closing and asking you to accept this, I would like to pass on my thanks to the Financial Resilience Subcommittee and Performance and Audit Committee for their scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wishes to second the motion?
I'll second that.
Councillor Savage. Thank you. Who wishes to speak on the motion, on the item? No? Okay, I shall... No? As no members have indicated a wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Hine to close the debate. Councillor Hine?
Questions? I just move the motion and move on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Item 9. And this is item 9, Bury St Edmunds Leisure Centre Maintenance and Refurbishment Project, consultation and next steps. I call upon Councillor Shipp to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. On the 16th of July 24, Council considered a report that presented the business case for the Bury St Edmunds Leisure Centre Maintenance and Refurbishment Project. The business case set out a proposed plan for addressing the significant maintenance work and delivering key improvements at the centre. The proposed enhancements to the leisure centre are designed to improve the facilities and services offered, making them better matched to the needs of the community. An amendment of the recommendation to Council has agreed to strengthen the consultation approach that had been proposed, including to engage with those that don't currently use the leisure centre, and set out the Council's commitment to the level of engagement that was required. As such, that consultation was taking place between August and October of this year, and responses of over 1,000 people came back on the exercise. It's worth noting that it's one of the largest responses to any consultation undertaken by the Council. A detailed assessment of the consultation is appended in the report tabled this evening. Councillors will note, in partnership with Abercroft Leisure, West Suffolk Council ran an online survey between the 22nd of August and the 10th of October to seek the views of the public and current users on the proposed maintenance and refurbishment. A total of 970 respondents took part in the online survey. The largest group of respondents were Bury St Edmunds Leisure Centre users at 840, 87%, followed by residents at 93, 10%. West Suffolk Council held an in-person engagement pop-up 21st of September in Bury St Edmunds Town Centre. Throughout the day, officers engaged 37 people face-to-face, of whom 11 were already members and 26 were non-members. A number of key stakeholders who accepted an invitation to discuss plans were consulted and gave their feedback. These include Abercroft staff, health partners, swimming club, life-saving clubs, netball clubs, Suffolk College, to name a few. The overwhelming consensus of opinion was support for the proposals, particularly around the wet side changing and the pool refurbishment. 71% of all users responded indicated they would use the facility more frequently, while 53% of non-users indicated they would use the facility post-refurbishment. One of the main common issues arising from the proposal was the disruption and concern around the disruption and the length of time that classes, facilities and pool closures would happen. That's obviously been noted, and those disruptions will be worked on with Abercroft and the team moving forward to ensure we mitigate the disruption as much as possible. Working outside of the direct scope of these refurbishment proposals, comments concerning car parking and access were notable, and these will be looked at currently with the car parks team and a programme of complementary improvements developed and funded separately from parking receipts. Work has already begun on reviewing how we can maximise capacity of the car park, its design and surfacing, access improvements and accommodating EV charging points. Based on responses to this consultation, Council is asked to note the responses and desire to make improvements happen as soon as possible. It can therefore be considered necessary for the project to proceed in order that the design work can be progressed. The works can be confirmed and scheduled to minimise the impact to the users and the cost of delay to the construction work. The outcome of the consultation has not presented the need to significantly change the areas of refurbishment at the leisure centre, and therefore the proposed business case and uplift in income opportunities arising from the investment currently still stands. On this basis, the base business assumptions remain unaltered at this stage. As previously approved at Council in July, the maximum budget facility of 8.36 million for the delivery of the maintenance and refurbishment project. This includes an additional 2.16 million financed by borrowing on an investor save or earn basis, funded from financial returns from the uplift in the centre performance. The project has progressed beyond seeking a cost certainty position and is currently working towards a full costed RIBA Stage 3 developed design, which will be concluded in January. As the design proposals are further developed, there are opportunity to include a number of suggestions raised by consultees, subject to the programme and budget constraints of the project. The only change to the financing of this project is a new provision of a one-off costs associated with the project, such as net income loss to Abercroft during the planned centre disruptions and reprovision of service costs. These will be funded from capital financing reserve. The costs will be quantified once the phasing of the project has been confirmed and implications of the disruptions are costed. Finally, the programme for maintenance and refurbishment work has a target completion date of early 2026, subject to the detailed design phasing of the work, securing business contractors and alternative arrangements to minimise disruption to users. I propose to move the motion, Chair.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Armitage. I've got 3 speakers who wish to speak on the item. 2, 4, 5 gone up to now. Right, Councillor Neal first, please.
Is that working? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Well, obviously, this is a very contentious subject. The previous administration wanted to build the new leisure centre, and as soon as we came into administration, we decided to put that on hold and go for the refurb. And there's a number of reasons that we went for the refurb, and I've made a few notes here as just some of the key points that hopefully make it the sensible option that we've taken. Obviously, there's a lower upfront investment cost, and it's significantly cheaper than building a new leisure centre. It's going to save taxpayers money and reduce the financial burden on this council. By going down the avenue of the refurb, it reduces the planning permission timescale, planning complexities, bringing the centre back into full use a lot quicker. A well-refurbished building can become more energy efficient, reducing energy bills. Demolishing and rebuilding generates substantial waste and carbon emissions. The refurbishment minimises this environmental impact, and I think that's a very important consideration. The facility can remain part open if offering limited services rather than being taken fully out of service for a rebuild. Refurbishment allows for focus upgrades on specific areas needing improvement, leading to a more cost-effective solution to the problems. The conclusion is it's far more advantages in refurbishing the sports centre than building a new one at a colossal cost and debt to the taxpayer. So that's why we went down this avenue, and I'm sure you'll all still disagree with that choice, but that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Glossop.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I support investing in the leisure centres, I have some questions regarding funding for the Bury Leisure Centre and the recommendations to invest a further 2.16 million over and above the 60 million set out in the capital programme, making a total of 8.18 million. The business case was presented at the July Council meeting, so I'm asking, is that the business case we are now going to use, or are we going to have an updated version, because that's a few months ago now? Have the contracts been agreed, or have we to obtain contracts? Will there be just one overall contract, but due to the nature of the refurbishment and repairs, will there be need for individual contracts for individual works? Will these contracts be fixed price contracts? The reason I am asking this is the budget has set out that national health expenditure for businesses would add cost to their work. Do we have a full breakdown in labour, materials and replacement parts? Page 42, recommendation B, says the one-off costs such as net income loss during the disruption and reprovision service costs will be funded from the capital reserves. So are we going to get a total of all of the costs on and above the 8.18 million? Finally, do we have a contingency in place, or is it factored into the 8.18 million? My concerns is what is going to happen if we cannot stay within the 8.18 million and the costs spiral. So those are my questions, please. You may not be able to answer those now, but you might want to give me a written statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hofstenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm obviously very pleased that our group's amendment, when we asked to go out to residents to ask what they thought of the current plans, was approved. And I'm pleased that we had a good response with regards to the refurbishment and repair of Bury St Edmunds Leisure Centre. I do have some reservations, and I think it was somewhat of a shame that perhaps the consultation did not allow for more alternative options to be explored than that was already proposed. But this didn't actually prevent the respondents' third highest amount of responses stating that more investment is required than is proposed, providing proposals of a new facility, or requesting a rebuild with questions over future-proofing all the facilities, all sentiments which I wholeheartedly agree with. We did have a chance to be more ambitious with our plans for the Leisure Centre. We could have provided a facility that was future-proof for our population growth and provided ambitious facilities for future generations rather than the short-term 10 years. However, this is a debate we've had before, and I fear we may continue into the future. Having said that, I cannot possibly vote against a proposal which commits to large amounts of money being moved into Bury St Edmunds leisure services, however short-term it is. Mr Chairman, I will support the paper put towards us today, as any investment into the health and well-being of our residents has to be supported, but it is with reservations, and I look forward to following the progress of the proposals.
Thank you. Councillor London.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have two brief questions, if I may. One of which is with regards to what my children affectionately call the pirate pool, which is we're looking at increasing the cafe, and there are also some comments with regards to soft play. I'm wondering exactly what reduction in the wet side we're looking at to allow other things to happen in there, and whether that is currently going to include a wet play. And the second question is, obviously, as we have closed in stages parts of this facility, it is going to increase demand in other facilities, other Abercroft facilities around the area. And I just wanted to find out what the plans are to deal with that increased demand in our other centres temporarily during the build process.
Thank you. Councillor Major.
Thank you very much indeed. I don't feel it'd be right for me to vote for this agenda item without expressing the reservations that has come from my residents of Moreton Hall. They were, in fact, one of the many that did put their comments towards this document, and also who made it very clear that they did not feel this was what they wanted. They wanted more. at the end of the day, we have a leisure facility that Sports England has told us should have been pulled down after 25 years, which we are now cropping up after 40 for another 10 years. We might be saving taxpayers in the short term, but not necessarily in the long term. And as we well know, every time you postpone something, the cost goes up. We have a very good example of that with the leisure facility we're trying to get in Morton Hall in the Splash Park Fountain, whom we have waited, and for every single time we wait, cost just goes up. So I am reluctantly voting for this motion on exactly the grounds that Councillor Hopfenberger has said, that we do not want to be viewed as somebody who are against investor in leisure, but this is just not the investment that is going to facilitate the needs of the people we represent in the long term. So it's short-term measures, and it's a pity.
Thank you. Councillor Rounds.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief because colleagues have said a lot of what I wanted to say, but I was spurred into speaking really by Councillor Neil's comments, because the leadership of this council talk a lot about ambition when I think we're talking about devolution and things other people are doing. But when we talk about our own operations, I don't really think we seem to talk about ambition anymore, whether it's our town centres or our leisure facilities. But my question for the portfolio holder is really around, within the paper, there's a lot in there about outdated facilities, and that's why people were, in effect, leaving the current leisure centre and taking up membership elsewhere. And that spurred me into thinking about the sustainability of Abbeycroft, and what reassurance could he give the council, particularly given additional costs incurred in terms of the minimum wage and NI hikes by the new government. What reassurance can he give us about the long-term sustainability of Abbeycroft?
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wishes to speak on this item? No? Okay. As members no longer wish to speak on this item, I shall go back to Councillor Shipp to close the debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members, for those. My shorthand is terrible, so you'll have to excuse me. If I miss anything, and I'm sure I have, and I will make sure that we get a written response to anything I've missed to you. I'll come back to Councillor Rout's initial comment. We work very closely with Abbeycroft on an open book agenda and facility. And obviously our prime concern and aim is to ensure working with them their sustainability. I'm assured working with Abbeycroft that they are more than happy with the way in which we're working with them, the way in which we're looking to move forward with them. I do recognise the increased pressures placed on them, and as you've seen, we've put an element in the report to look at that through this process, but we'll continue to look at that with them moving forward and do what we can do to work with them. One of the main things, agenda items on this, is to help improve their income and help improve their sustainability. I meet with them regularly. They're here this evening, and I'd like to welcome and thank them for turning up tonight. Always happy to talk with them about that and work out how we can manage them moving forward. And we do need to recognise their increased costs. I have already had discussions with Cabinet in Cabinet planning to that effect, to sit back and recognise that life is changing and has changed for them, and we need to reflect that. Coming back to the ones that I've managed to capture with my shorthand, as I say, contingency is included within those figures. The budget, the costs within the budget are set as per the business plan back in July. So that business plan hasn't changed. What have I got? Councillor London, we had a conversation earlier on regarding this item. I think the reality is, when it comes to the design of the facility and the ultimate outcome of that design, reduction in percentages of water, I'm not going to give you a figure now. I'll be able to provide a written figure to you at some point. But it comes back to my point a second or two ago. There's two elements to this. One is the service provision, of which we want to give a first-class facility, at the end of this project. But we also need to ensure that's a sustainable first-class facility with Abbeycroft. So I'll be taking, regard of their comments and basically leaving it to the professionals with respect to the design and the outcome of that design for their provision of the service. Where am I now? Right, so Councillor Gossett, what will happen if costs spiral? If we get to a situation where costs have spiralled, and fingers crossed, hopefully we don't, then I'll need to come back to Council at a later date to reflect that. So the budget is set, that's what we're sticking to, that's what we'll work to. If there is any risk to that, then I'll come back at the earliest possible point to that. Then I'm starting to look at a load of scribbles. I apologise if I've missed anything fundamental. We've got it captured up here, and I'll get back to you with any further comments that I've missed in a written statement to that effect.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. That's carried. I'll go on to the next item, which is item 10. West Suffolk Local Council Tax Reduction Scheme 2025 to 2026. I call upon Councillor Hine to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Each year, the Council is required to consider whether to revise its local council tax reduction scheme. I'll refer to it, if I refer to it again, as LCTRS for shortness. Changes implemented between April 24 and April 25 ensured that the maximum discount a working age resident could receive on their council tax remained for a second year at a maximum of 100% compared to the previous level of 91.5%. This reduced the amount that many council taxpayers had to pay and resulted in some working age residents paying zero council tax. The current 24 to 25 scheme was approved by Cabinet and Council in December 23. The changes implemented were temporary and unless extended from April 25, the maximum discount will automatically revert back to 91.5%. Indications from the schemes in 23-24 and 24-25 suggest that the increase of the maximum discount to 100% has helped ease the effects of the cost of living crisis for some of our more vulnerable residents, and I asked Council today to review and agree that we extend this for a further year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to second the motion?
Chairman, happy to second and nothing to add.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kennick. Okay, who wishes to speak on this item? Two. Councillor Speed first.
Thank you, Chair. I'm concerned about this for two reasons. Firstly, the temporary word is an issue, I think, because I'm unsure that in a year or so's time the situation will be improved. I can understand why 2 or 3 years ago, when energy prices were so badly affected, that the scheme made sense. But I think with the reduction in inflation and energy prices, and with interest rates falling, I see less need for the motivation for the scheme. Over and above that, I think a quick look at the numbers suggests that the monies we're seeking are really very small in that 9.5%, but add to an aggregate across the councils of a sizable amount. And when we are constantly, as we were yesterday, looking at bus services, and we're needing to fund bus services quite rightly, it, I think, is a mistake that there isn't an idea, the concept of the collective contributing to the services they wish to have. For West Suffolk, I think the difference and the 9.5% is 80p a month. I don't think that's much to pay towards using Abbey Gardens or having bins collected, or indeed at a county level having a police force that can look after you, or a bus service that can pick you up, or potholes that need addressing. So I don't think I can support the ongoing nature of it, because I believe in the concept of everybody chipping in at whatever level to the services that they wish to use.
Thank you. I've got 3 more now. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting this, but in para 1.8, I find it disingenuous to say that the additional burden does not fall directly on other council taxpayers. It does, because there's less money about, but I still will support that. But I do think that comment is very disingenuous. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be supporting this motion. Haverhill, an area I represent, and other members, has the highest number of people claiming universal credit. And every little bit counts. I've made it very public, but I'm frustrated with the government's change of policy on winter fuel payments. But there are people who have missed out by ridiculously small sums of money, less than £1, and they missed out on being able to claim their pension credit. And so, for me, the tax burden on residents continues to go up, and every little bit counts. I do believe this should be temporary, but I don't believe the cost of living crisis is over yet. I think people are still feeling it in their pockets. I certainly feel it when I'm shopping in Tesco's. I don't get as much in my shopping basket as I once did. Small amounts of money feel bigger to people who don't have very much money, and things are tight. I think it's still the right time to keep it, and I think, my preference is that it would be temporary, but now is not the time to remove it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor London.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to be supporting this motion, even though I recognise it as a sticking plaster on an otherwise somewhat broken council tax system. It's not within our gift to be able to fix that system that was put in place when I was in primary school and is now long past due for renovation, but I can at least make my voice heard on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other any other councillor who wish to speak on this item? No?
No, Chair.
Right, thank you. As no other members have indicated a wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Hind to close the debate.
Thank you, colleagues, for those questions and comments. I agree totally with Councillor Mason that every little bit counts and that people are still feeling the pinch. And if you think about it, sometimes people say, well, it's only this amount. But every time you say that, adds up and it becomes substantial. It is temporary. We do have to review it every year. So you can be assured that we will reflect on everything and consult again next year, and we'll be reviewing it then and adjust to the situation, whatever it happens to be. And obviously we do consult with other stakeholders, including other preceptors and partners. And I stress that it is temporary. It is a requirement to look at it every year, and hopefully we will continue to do so. But just for this year, I am asking for your support in renewing it, because I think it is needed definitely for this year. As to the exact amounts, I haven't got those to hand, but as we said, even small amounts. I think there was a saying once, money's nothing when you've got it, but everything if you haven't. And I think that's the situation for some people. So, yes, it's my recommendation that we do continue this for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Okay. Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. I'll now move on to item 11, council tax base for tax setting purposes, 2025 to 2026. I'll call upon again Councillor Hind to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. This report details the process and information used to calculate the council tax base for 25 to 26. The council tax base is the total taxable value at a point in time of all the domestic properties in this council's area. It's a yearly calculation and represents the estimated number of chargeable dwellings after allowing for exemptions and discounts, projected changes in the property base, and after applying an estimated collection rate. The council tax base is used in the calculation of council tax. Each authority divides the total council tax income it needs to meet its budget requirement by the tax base of its area to arrive at its Band D council tax and subsequently, of course, all other bands. The resulting tax base figure for council tax collection purposes for West Suffolk, expressed in terms of the number of Band D equivalent properties, is 59,449.99 for 25 to 26 and represents an increase of 765.02 on the tax base for the current year of 58,684.97. This new tax base figure for West Suffolk is analysed further in the papers across individual town and parish councils to inform their tax base figures for the purpose of budget setting and determining the parish Band D tax levels in those areas. Town and parish tax base figures are set out in Appendix 3, and we have shared these provisional figures with all the town and parish councils to aid in their own budget and council tax setting processes. And obviously we'll, again, I'm just asking you to agree this for this year.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Kennick?
Happy to second, Chair, and nothing to add.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to speak? I've got two names come up. Councillor Waldron first.
Thank you, Chair. I'm bringing up the inevitable question that comes every year when we do this tax base thing. I have two parishes in my ward. One's on a tax number of 561. The other one's on a tax number of 1,226. The lower number is getting a bigger precept than the higher number because the higher number has so many American residents, they're not paying enough money. Is there any way this council can actually pursue the United States forces to start paying towards their council tax? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Marks.
In actual fact, that's exactly the same question as I was going to raise, because we know that the United States Air Base, the fact that they pay their residents their employees so much money that it creates a problem for us with rents in the district. They also pay them for their utility bills, and yet we don't charge them for council tax. And I fundamentally don't understand that. So if we could pursue that, or if somebody could explain to me why we don't charge them, I think they're still using the facilities locally and the services locally. So if somebody could explain that, and perhaps we could review that situation, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stennett.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say and put it on the record, my thanks to the American Armed Services being over here, being part of NATO and offering us and helping us with our defence. And I wouldn't take it very lightly if we carried out the suggestions. I know it has to be paid for, but I think that's a price well paid in defence of our realm. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other councillor wish to speak on this item? No? Okay. As no other members have indicated to wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Hind to close the debate. Councillor Hind.
Thank you, Chair. The position that we find ourselves in, where our American friends and visitors here is governed by the Ministry of Defence, and we don't really have any ability to change that at the moment. We are assured that there is a procedure by which they do pay a certain sum of money to the government, and allegedly that comes into us in our revenue support grant. but we have never been able to establish to get that actually quantified. But we are assured that that allowance is made in the revenue support grant. So all I can say is that we will continue to engage with the government, and we'll make representations, just as I'm sure my predecessors have always tried to do as well. But what we want to do is to ensure that any reimbursement ultimately is transparent, and that we do actually have an in full one eventually. But it's not something that's within our gifts, sadly. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Right, that's carried. Thank you. Item 12, review of chemical weed treatment on land owned by the council. I call upon Councillor Shipp to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I feel as if it's already been debated, this item, earlier on this evening numerous times, so I shan't dwell too long on the matter. However, that's not being flippant. First of all, I'd like to thank the cross-party working group for all the work that they've put in and helped myself to arrive at the point where we've got the agenda item on here this evening. There's a lot of work, a lot of debate, and I can assure members that the reasoning for the reintroduction is a practical and sound one, and there's absolutely no intention whatsoever to cause harm to the environment, and that we will be continuing to seek emerging alternative methods should they arise moving forward to dealing with it. So thanks to the working party for all the work they put in, and also Mark and the team for what they put in. There was a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of investigation gone into reintroducing the chemical. You can see, I mean, we've seen over the past couple of years the state of certain areas that are extremely difficult to manage without this chemical. I'd like to thank Vivian, who I met earlier on. Thank you very much for coming this evening and talking with us, and for staying so long with us tonight. You've highlighted some of the real issues surrounding this, and hopefully following the vote this evening we'll be able to get back on top of the matter and get to where we need to be moving forward. So I'd like to move the motion and sit back and wait for any comment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to speak? Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Andrew Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ian. Yes, I'm delighted to second the motion. I think Vivian's representation reflects many communities and concerns around West Suffolk. And in that context, I'd be delighted if we provided the authority to our trusted officers and operatives to use glyphosate in a sparing way, as is proposed in this paper. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you. I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 speakers. Can you just keep your questions very tiny, please? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. This is unscripted, so it may not be timely. I'll give it a go. Of course, I seconded a motion. There was a co-authored with Councillor Wakelam when we decided to try stopping using glyphosate. I'll be supporting this motion, but with some sense of sadness. We were promised that an alternative would work. You know, initially, County had decided to move away from glyphosate. I remember as a child driving a car, not me driving a car, but being in the car, and there being bugs on the front of your vehicle and on your windscreen splattered. It doesn't seem to happen anymore, certainly not in the same quantity. I know glyphosate is used on an industrial scale on farms. It's an essential part of their farming processes, and it has had an effect on bee populations and the environment. At the time, we were seeing things like tree burn, where glyphosate was being sprayed around the base of trees. And so, at the time, with a possible alternative, when it was brought to council, it was almost unanimous, that decision. And although maybe not all members here were there on that day, but it was done with the best of intentions, with the possibility that an alternative would work. I would like to commend the Parks team. I think if anybody visits Haverhill and visits some of the different parts, such as the Meadowlands estate, the wildflowers, which are being managed there by the Parks team, are spectacular. And I think hand in hand with the topic on glyphosate is a need to increase our biodiversity as well. And I commend the Parks team for the work that they've done across the district to try and increase biodiversity. I don't want to see a return to tree burn, but I think this proposal suggests that tree burn won't happen. I'll say again, tree burn is where you just go around the base of a tree to get rid of weeds. It's unsightly and it's unnecessary. If it's restricted to hard-standing areas and we can make sure that our paths are safe for for pedestrians to be able to walk along, I think judicious and careful use of glyphosate is probably the happy compromise. As I say, I will support this motion. It's with a tinge of sadness because I'm not a fan of glyphosate, but I think it's probably the wisest decision to move back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wakelam.
Thank you, Chair. I definitely don't want to fall out with you, Vivian. I'm extremely fond of you and I admire you hugely. Vivian is an outstanding example of a good citizen. If there were more people like her, we'd be in a better place. However, I will be voting against this proposal, although I fully expect to be in a minority of one. As the report says, this council agreed to cease the use of glyphosate and similar herbicides in 2023, except against certain pernicious species. Now, pernicious species must include buddleia, and I must ask, really, why that exemption wasn't used against buddleia, because I do appreciate and accept that it's causing huge problems. I was quite shocked when I had a good look at the walls. The decision was taken following much lobbying by residents, so there are people on both sides of this. And the reason was not just that they, like Councillor Mason, objected to tree burn and looking at dead and dying vegetation, but also the likely damage to human health, particularly to those applying it or touching it after application. I'm aware that our Parks team and our officers are extremely careful of their operatives, but there is still a problem. It's a problem for people touching it after spraying has taken place, which is a particular concern near playgrounds. As the report itself notes, in 2015, the World Health Organization identified it as probably carcinogenic to humans. A 2019 study found that the use of Roundup, which is glyphosate, increased the risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma by 41%. And 2024 research from the Arizona State University shows it's accumulating in brain tissue and accelerating Alzheimer's. This is in mice, so I'm not worrying you about that, but it raises further concerns about the impact of its long-term use on humans. Crucially, the link between the use of glyphosates and other such chemicals and the link between the use and the global decline in bees and other pollinators and insects is clear. They both kill insects and destroy their food resources. Insects make up over half the species on Earth, and as creatures at the bottom of the food chain, they are actually essential to life, to pretty much all life as we know it. They are small, but they're vital. And I agree with Councillor Mason, it is a real sadness, in a way, that we're not killing insects with our cars. Because I remember too, my father having to stop and actually clean the windscreen when we went down to Devon. This decline, which Bug Life in 2021 found had reduced flying insects by 59% between 2004 and 2021, does not seem to be halting. And it matters not only to gardeners who need pollinators, but to farmers. They're central to fruit farms. They serve crops including oilseed rape, clovers and other nitrogen-fixing plants. They're important for livestock grazing and the survival of our beautiful wildflowers. And anyone who has walked in the countryside and seen the wildflowers growing, it's just wonderful. And there was a picture, wasn't there, in the report of the bee orchid. Pollinators add to the diversity of plant species, and without that diversity, our countryside will pretty soon cease to be as beautiful as it is now. The decision last year was taken in the knowledge that many members of the public would object. And it's unfortunate that the publicity campaign really didn't take off. It wasn't really promoted. We didn't really explain before we stopped starting spraying why we were doing it to the public. We didn't attempt to get more residents on side. For example, asking some of them to help people to help look after their own streets, which does happen in other authorities. But we are where we are, and I appreciate it was not a universally popular decision. To be honest, the right ones often aren't. It is really disappointing that alternative methods of weed control have proved either too expensive or time-consuming, because I too share concerns about the look of our town. I love Bury St Edmunds. I'm proud to live here, and it is true, parts of it look dreadful. So I also understand why we've taken the easy decision, and we're going to revert to the use of glyphosate. And I'm really glad to see that the use is to be limited. I do question the need to spray around bins in the grass and bollards. We're going to go back to having little areas, little circles of dead and dying trees and weeds around them. And I feel that manual control would be better. I'm really concerned about its proposed use in the cemetery. I don't really understand how the memorial that was shown in that report got into that state. Cemeteries and churchyards are havens for insects, and so can we not just keep them that way and look at alternative methods in the cemetery? Well, in all the cemeteries. I think we should be adopting the principles of the Living Churchyard and Cemetery Project and consider not only that, but also other ways of encouraging pollinators in our district. And like Councillor Mason, I would like to congratulate our Parks team on the work they have done up till now. I do think it's, you can see
Councillor Wakelam.
I'm talking too much, aren't I? Sorry.
Yeah, because your 5 minutes was already up. So can you just finish off now, please?
I will. I am nearly at the end of what I had to say. And I'm really glad to see there's a commitment to continue to explore other methods of vegetation, because this decision will have long-term consequences for all of us. So we must keep it under review. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Councillor London.
Thank you very much, Chair. I didn't have the joy of being here when we brought in the ban. I am always nervous as somebody that was trained as a physicist when we have politicians trying to do science. It shouldn't really be up to elected politicians to decide which particular chemicals are good, bad, or carcinogenic, or anything else. That is the job of professional scientists. And if we have a chemical which is proven to be bad for the environment to the best understanding that we have, then one council changing things isn't going to make a blind bit of difference, especially when it's less than 1% of all of the glyphosate spread in West Suffolk. So I'm absolutely happy that we're bringing this back in, and I hope that we are not just feeding our bees on pollinators on plants that are growing in cracks in the pavement, that we can put things in place as a council that will positively affect our population of pollinators, with areas of grassland set aside for wildflowers, and that will more than make up for the lack of weeds in the sides of pavements. Thank you.
Councillor Pugh.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say this is an item which I feel would be made much easier if we were a unitary, because I'm sure I'm not the only councillor here who has gone to a parish council meeting and been shouted at because you, West Suffolk, have sprayed stuff all over my garden. And it's not you, West Suffolk. It turned out to be Suffolk County Council. So I think a unitary could be very useful in this instance. What I would like to know is whether we are going to guarantee that we will train our staff better than Suffolk County Council do, because the experience in one of my villages, it's been nearly war.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rout.
Thank you. I'm just trying to follow War in Clare. In Wickenbrook, sorry. Look, sometimes, and I mentioned ambition earlier, sometimes we do ambitious things for all the right reasons and they don't work. And this is one of those instances. So I think as much as I would like to continue not using glyphosate, it's been proven both here and at the county that there isn't yet a proper alternative. But my question for the portfolio holder is around recommendation 2, and it's the recommendation that, and Councillor Wakelam is a very hopeful person, so I'm pleased she drew attention to it. But it feels to me that it's based on nothing much but hope. I mean, to continue exploring emerging alternative methods, what does that look like? Does it mean we keep our ear to the ground and listen out for other things that might be coming along? Does it mean we've got other trials in the pipeline? Does it just mean warm words for Councillor Wakelam?
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm on the cross-party grounds maintenance group, and I would just like to say the amount of thought, time and effort that was put in by the officers, it was a really reluctant decision to go down the route of the reintroduction of glyphosate. It's not something that, us as West Suffolk councillors, wanted to do. It was a passionate debate a year or so ago, to stop using it. But as people have highlighted, the council did try everything they could, from strimming, alternate chemicals, etc., but unfortunately none of it worked. And credit must go to Damien and Mark's team for all the amount of effort that they did try really, really hard, to find an alternative method. And it's a tiny amount and it's going to be really controlled. So, I'm happy to vote for this, and just to say I appreciate all the work that Mark, Damien's team put into this. This decision hasn't been taken lightly, and just would like to echo what Joe and Julia said. Just like to thank all the ground maintenance staff because they do such a fantastic job. We are truly blessed, even down in Haverhill, East Town Park, Emperor's Green, we've got huge areas of grassland now that's dedicated to wildflower growth. I've got pyramid orchids, bee orchids growing within 50 yards of my house on an estate. So, and if anyone phones in to say they've spotted a flower, the grounds maintenance team will protect that. So, the amount of effort and time that our teams put into this, they should be thanked, and hopefully everyone in the council would agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffensberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I support the motion before us. I think Vivian eloquently put the case on why and when we should be using glyphosate on a limited basis to protect our heritage buildings, but also to provide a safe environment for people in those particular hard-standing areas. And I too, I will echo a lot of what's been said today. I think we all take pride in the areas where we live, and our council staff work extremely hard maintaining our parks and green areas. But I do feel as if they've been fighting a bit of a losing battle when we have been piloting the stopping the glyphosate use. And that's exactly what pilots are for. We explored stopping glyphosate. We looked at alternative options. Unfortunately, those alternative options were not proved as successful as we hoped. But I do think we have found a good compromise and a balance in when we will reintroduce glyphosate on a very limited basis on areas where we control, and hard-standing areas, for all the reasons that Vivian eloquently put. So therefore, I support the motion for us.
Thank you. Councillor Cannick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not a question, but an observation. In the spring, when I drive into Bury from Brandon, I pass through Elvedon, and I see those massive tractors with those enormous booms on them. And emanating from those booms, Mr. Chairman, is a fine spray. That is not a deodorant. That is glyphosate, Mr. Chairman. That's a herbicide that suppresses the weeds increasing the crop yield, making the food less expensive in the shops and supermarkets. And there's a footnote, Mr. Chairman. I don't know of anyone who has turned square and festered at the corners because of the use of glyphosate. Chair, I support the motion 100%.
Thank you. Councillor Stennett.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank Councillor Shipp, especially Mark Walsh and the inter-party team who spent a lot of time and many hours going through the extensive report. I know only too well all the other sort of trials, what have been done, the other alternatives, what we tried to find. But the fact comes down to I've had calls of people crying because they couldn't go to the graveyard. They couldn't find their ex-partner's grave because it's overgrown by weeds. We're going to have the problems in the roads. The drain's been overdone. Vivian's elegantly told you about the walls, around the app in that we have to find another solution. I mean, we don't want to go down this route, but we have no other choice, I feel. So, I'd have to support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. As no other members are indicating to wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Shipp to close the debate.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask for some training once again on shorthand because there's lots of comments and questions out there, and if I miss any, by all means, email me and I'll get back to you. Look, the proposed reintroduction isn't by any means designed to diminish our responsibility to the environment. We recognise that responsibility, and the Parks team work extremely hard at enhancing that, our environment. They're planting trees on a regular basis. They're doing all sorts of works with our communities to enhance that, and they'll continue to do that, and we'll seek wherever we can any opportunities to carry on doing that in the future. I do recognise the concerns that members have, and members still have, and there have been questions raised regarding training. Yes, no member of staff will use this chemical without the correct training, sufficient training. That will be monitored and managed on an ongoing basis. Where else was I? What else have I got? Try and find out. One of the things I would like to make clear, it is this report is talking about your council, West Suffolk's property. Just remember that this is West Suffolk's property. Moving forward in the future, if we get issues and complaints about other landowners' properties, that isn't our responsibility, and this isn't what we're talking about here. So I just wanted to make that clear and plain to everybody. Julia, I do recognise your concern for the environment 100%, and looking back at the comments there, as soon as we can, as soon as there is an alternative that is suitable, I guarantee you the team will be raising it and bringing it to our attention. Damien and his team, they're members of professional organisations who are looking at these opportunities and options on an ongoing basis. As I say, we'll look at that and we'll bring back to council wherever possible and whenever possible alternative options for that. One thing I will say as well is, and I have thanked the cross-party working group, we have agreed that we'll carry on talking with each other and meeting on a regular basis moving forward. And if there are any issues on grounds maintenance that you feel require a conversation, then bring them to our attention and we'll move those forward accordingly. We are meeting, I think, next in May to talk on further topics. And I thank those members of that group for doing that and Mark for supporting that with the team. I shan't go on anymore because it's getting nearly past my bedtime. I don't know about anybody else's. So I will close my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. It's way past my bedtime, I tell you. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show.
Any against, Chair?
Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Oh, 2 abstentions. Right. Thank you. That's carried. Item 13, Hargrave Neighbourhood Plan Review, Examination and Decisions to Make as a West Suffolk Development Plan document. I call upon Councillor Cannick to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm standing in for our colleague, Councillor Thorndyke. I'm sure you've all read the report, but what I will do is just go through a couple of bullet points with you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the Hargrave Neighbourhood Plan Review. The plan review has been prepared by a working group led by Hargrave Parish Council, who reviewed and updated their neighbourhood plan adopted in 2018. A neighbourhood plan should be read alongside the documents which make up the District Council Development Plan and are used to help decide planning applications in the parish area. They are written by the local community, the people who know and love the area. For a neighbourhood plan to become part of the development plan, it must follow a statutory process involving public consultation at each formal stage, including designation of the plans area, pre-submission, submission, and examination. The examiner found that the review plan did not include modifications so significant that they changed the nature of the 2018 plan, and therefore no referendum was necessary. The process is now complete, and the last step in the Hargrave Neighbourhood Plan's journey will be taken now when West Suffolk Council is asked to adopt it as part of the planning policy used to determine planning applications in Hargrave Parish area. The independent examiner summarises the plan well, stating that, and I quote, "The revised and new policies are clearly worded and accompanied by a number of exemplary supporting documents that explain and justify the stance taken by policies. The clarity of thought and logical approach taken in the made plan is retained in the review plan." End of quote. I feel Hargrave Parish Council and Working Group should be congratulated on the successful production of this neighbourhood plan, review and outcome of the examination. I therefore move the recommendation. Number 1, West Suffolk Council adopts the Hargrave Neighbourhood Plan, the post-examination version, so that it becomes part of the statutory development plan and a material consideration for determining planning applications in the Hargrave neighbourhood area. Number 2, I wish to make a slight amendment to the second recommendation contained on page 114 of your agenda pack, so that delegated authority is given to the Director for Planning and Growth and not to the Service Manager for Planning Policy to carry out the functions stated in the recommendation. With this amendment, I propose that the recommendations listed on page 113 and 114 of the report are approved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Hind, thank you. Who wishes to speak on this item? No? Right, I will move on to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Item 14. Annual Review of Members' Allowance Scheme. I call upon Councillor Kelly to introduce this item and move the motion. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. This is a light touch review because the full review happens every 4 years. The rules require that this review is undertaken annually to ascertain whether it basically remains fit for purpose. So the Independent Remuneration Panel met on the 24th of October, undertook the review. They considered the current scheme to be up to date and fit for purpose, but did note a minor anomaly that they wished to correct. They noted that members were advised that claims for expenses must be made within 2 months of the event, but the staff could submit claims up to 3 months after the event. So the simple solution to that is that they propose aligning the processes for both members and staff, and that in future councillors will have 3 months to submit. That's the only suggestion that they have made at the moment, and I propose that we accept that, move on as rapidly as possible to avoid Councillor Shipp turning into a pumpkin.
Thank you for that. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Sayer? Thank you. Who wishes to speak on this item? Councillor Dicker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was disappointed that no recognition or any comments by the committee regarding the Standards Committee. This has been, in the 20 years I've sat on Forest Heath and on the Standards Committee, it's been the busiest year, unfortunately, for the Standards Committee. We've had hundreds and hundreds of pages to have to read. Unfortunately, members in this chamber have created this problem. And I feel now that since there is no allowance for the Standards Committee's chairman or vice chairman, and by the way, in case anyone wants to point any fingers, I wouldn't, even though I am chairman, I wouldn't receive it anyway. But I feel the fact of how busy the Standards Committee has to be, that maybe the remuneration panel needs to possibly look at an allowance for that committee. I'd have already brought this up. Obviously, it got missed. So I'm hoping that the cabinet member who covers this will put it to the remuneration panel in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you for that. As no one else has indicated, I will go back to Councillor Kelly to close the debate.
Thank you, Chair. And as far as Standards Committee and, in fact, other committees are concerned, Cabinet will be looking at the agenda for the Independent Remuneration Panel early in the new year. The point is well taken. Apart from that, I'm glad to say I propose the motion.
Thank you very much. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show.
Against, Chair.
All those against? Any abstentions? No? That's carried. Thank you. Item 15, proposed changes to the Constitution. I call upon Councillor Kelly again to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thank you once again. So 13th of November, the Constitution Review Group met to consider changes to the Constitution proposed by the monitoring officer along with the leader and the 3 group leaders. In recognising there's currently no specific item within the council agenda to enable announcements by the Standards Committee and or the monitoring officer, either arising from changes to the local government standards framework or relating to a breach of the member code of conduct, it's proposed to amend the Constitution to allow an item of business headed to receive reports from the monitoring officer or West Suffolk Standards Committee. It's also proposed a further amendment is made to the Constitution to incorporate the agreed standards procedures and the Standards Committee hearing procedures, thus bringing further transparency. So for those reasons, I propose the motion set out on page 133 of the agenda pack. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Sayer. Thank you. I've just seen 2 people want to speak on this item. First is Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I support the change to our constitution in this area, but it doesn't go anywhere near far enough. Now, I understand there may be a white paper coming along soon, and in which case that may help to clarify. But let me just bring a number of points to your attention, if I may, as a councillor. And of course, any one of us could find ourselves
in front of this panel at some time. So there is nothing in the procedure about conflict of interest of the panel members, in particular the chair, who can be influential. And that is incorrect, it is inappropriate, and is not held to account. It is also silent on the hearing itself. So I don't know if members are aware, but under the current rules with this council, if you have a complaint against you, you're not allowed to efface your accusers, you're not allowed to attend the panel meeting, and you certainly can't speak at it. And that is despite the Local Government Association's guidance, its model conduct paper that issued in 2020, saying that, in fact, you should be able to represent yourself or be represented by somebody else and certainly attend. In fact, it goes further than that and says that the person who had the complaint against may offer up his or her defence in any way they see fit. And that doesn't happen here. And I just don't understand why we never managed to adopt that particular code of practice, and that predates the administration on that side. It's our fault, but we haven't done it, and I think that's to a huge detriment, particularly where you get complicated cases. So I'd like that to be considered, and it's likely that when the new white paper, should it come out, I'm sure the LGA will provide some more guidance. So let's actively look at it and try and adopt it, and then take into consideration some of the points that I've raised. Because, you know, if you can't speak in your own defence, it's starting to look like a kangaroo court, and that's not at all what we should be doing. And it certainly lacks the transparency that the LGA demand.
Thank you. Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I was just going to second the motion, actually. So nothing more to say.
No, it's already been done.
Short and sweet.
Right. Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As the chair of the Constitutional Review Group, we did consider the white paper that is coming up, and for that very reason, we didn't go any further. This was purely to deal with the situation that arose a few meetings back. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Clark raised some really valid points there, and I think, you know, to be fair, going down the road, we need to look at those. They're very good points, and I'd hate to think that we was running anything like. I know we're not, but to even look like we're running some sort of kangaroo court wouldn't be is to the detriment of this council. So I fully support what Councillor Clark said. Thank you.
Thank you. As there's no other member indicated to wish to speak, I shall go back to Councillor Kelly to close the debate. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the bottom line is, as Councillor Clark said, the white paper is on the way, and cutting a long story into a summary of a précis, it was basically about addressing a specific issue that this was dealt with the way it was dealt with. Quite clearly, the work is an ongoing issue, and with potentially huge changes coming up, it did not seem practical to, start now and having to reinvent it in a fortnight's time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? Right, that's two abstentions. Thank you. That is carried. Item 16, Wixow Parish Meeting, Section 109 Order. I call upon Councillor Kelly to introduce this item and move the motion.
Thanks yet again, Chair. Wixow Parish Meetings requested that we confer additional rights and powers on the parish meeting. The request was supported by the residents of Wixow. The reason for the request is so that the parish meeting can receive and use a community benefit fund which is associated with the planning application. Quite clearly, parish meetings are not the same as parish councils. They don't have the same rights, and in order to allow them to progress at all, we have to give them those rights. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a reasonably good example of the district supporting parishes whether meetings or councils, in their role working for the communities. And the report seeks the council's approval for the WIXO's request and delegation for the Chief Operating Officer to make the necessary legal order. So I propose that the motion set out on page 151 is accepted. Thank you.
Who wishes to second the motion? Councillor Higgins? Oh.
He's the local man.
I've actually just pressed the button, but who's the local man? You're the local man.
Councillor Clark.
Councillor Clark, sorry, he was first on the... Right, yeah. Councillor Clark wished to second. Right, thank you. Is there anybody wish to speak on this item? Councillor Higgins.
Yes, I'd just like to say, as I think most people know, I've got a particular interest in parishes and the smallest units of local democracy. This may not be a parish council, but they're a group of people who want to use their democratic voice. I would be very surprised if this council doesn't pass it, but I have been surprised in the past. In any case, it would have my full support.
Thank you. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, just very quickly, Wixo is a fantastic village, and Marion and Karen are very pleased to represent them. They're a very active community, small but perfectly formed, well led. They have an opportunity now to take advantage of a development, a betterment. They just need the powers to do it. So changing the rules to fit the reality makes absolute sense, and I second the motion.
Thank you. I shall go back to Councillor Kelly to close the debate. Councillor Kelly.
I think that sums it up nicely. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will now take the vote. All those in favour, please show.
Any against, Chair?
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Item 17. Any other urgent business? As there's no... Councillor Glossop.
Yes, please. Is there a reason why we have to sit in a freezing cold room? This happened, when I'm frozen. I'm like a solid ice, and I don't think it's acceptable. So can we do something about it, please? Thank you.
We have... Thank you, councillors. Thank you, councillors. Let me reply, please. We have noted what you said, and we're going to take it up. Okay? Thank you very much. Right, item 18. Now announce the business is concluded for this evening. Thank you all for attending. I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. I invite members to leave the chamber via the east side. Thank you, everyone.